Okay, so this week on the deep dive, we're going to be taking a close look at this pretty public back and forth we've been seeing between Jimmy Kimmel and Elon Musk.
Yeah, it's been all over the headlines.
It has, and I think it's really fascinating to kind of dig into what they're saying to each other and why. And I think looking at it through the lens of like these source materials, we have like Kimmel's show transcripts and Musk's posts on what's it called now, X, whatever Twitter's called now.
X, yeah, it's definitely a shift.
Yeah, and our goal here is to figure out like what's the story behind this whole exchange. I think there's got to be more to it than just a couple of jokes. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you have two figures as prominent as Kimmel and Musk,
Yeah.
these massive platforms, even seemingly small interactions can quickly become like these huge public events.
Yeah, for sure. And this whole thing really seemed to start on Wednesday when Kimmel, he was talking about those Tesla protests and, those reports of arson attacks against Teslas.
Oh, right. And Musk had kind of already stirred the pot by calling those protesters deranged.
Exactly. Yeah, and so Kimmel kind of jumped on that and I guess you could say he poked a little fun at Musk for that whole chainsaw thing at CPAC. He said, when you pull out a chainsaw to celebrate firing thousands of people, they get mad.
Right. And that chainsaw thing, I think a lot of people saw it as symbolic.
Yeah.
Like Musk is sort of saying he wants to like cut through government bureaucracy and all that, but Kimmel's joke, it brings it back down to earth a bit. It connects that image to the very real consequences for people losing their job.
Totally. And Kimmel didn't stop there. He also went on to bring up those accusations from back in January, during that Trump speech when some people were saying Musk was doing Nazi salutes.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so Kimmel says, my God, I mean, this poor guy, you do one, maybe two Nazi salutes, everybody gets all bent out of shape.
Yeah. It's interesting how he's using humor to address, something that some people found really offensive. It's like satire, but it's pretty pointed satire, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, Musk didn't waste any time responding. On X, he posted like twice calling Kimmel an unfunny jerk.
Oh, wow. So he really went right for him.
Oh, yeah, he did. And that's not all, Kimmel. Like, on his Thursday show, he decided to kind of hit back, and he really went after Tesla.
Really? What does he say?
Well, he brought up the fact that Tesla had to recall almost all 46,000 Cybertrucks. Like basically every single one.
Wow, all of them.
Yeah, and get this, it's the 8th recall since they launched it just a little over a year ago.
Huh. That's a lot of recalls for like a brand new flagship product.
Right. It makes you wonder,
It does. Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it from the consumer's perspective too. When you're dropping that much money on a vehicle, you're expecting a certain level of quality and reliability.
Exactly. And then Kimmel, he made this joke about those Teslas that burned up in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah. I saw that on the news.
Yeah. So Kimmel, he's like, were they arson or did they just set themselves on fire?
Uh-huh. Classic Kimmel.
I know, right? But, there's a serious point there, too. Like, Teslas, they've had some issues with their batteries and safety. And I think these jokes, they kind of tap into that underlying concern that some people have.
Right. It brings those issues, to the forefront of the conversation.
Exactly. And Kimmel, he also brought up, how people are angry at Musk for, randomly and gleefully putting thousands of Americans out of work, including veterans.
Yeah, that was a big point of contention for a lot of people, those layoffs at Twitter.
Absolutely. And then he compared that reaction to how certain groups responded to the events of January 6th, or as he put it, January 7th.
January 7th.
Yeah, like he jokingly corrected himself.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like he's trying to point out the inconsistencies in how different groups respond to different events.
Right. It's like he's saying, look, why are people so upset about this, but not about that? You know?
Interesting. So just to make sure I'm following you here, we basically have a late night host making jokes about a powerful tech figure in his company. And these jokes are touching on sensitive issues like job losses and, these alleged gestures and product problems.
It's in a nutshell. Yeah.
And then that sparks a very public response from Musk, which leads to Kimmel doubling down on his commentary.
Exactly. And, I think for anyone listening to this, the takeaway here is that we're living in a world where entertainment and business and politics, they're all completely intertwined, Like a joke on a late night show can set off this whole chain reaction that plays out on social media and the news.
It's wild when you think about it, like the power of these platforms to amplify a single comment or joke into this huge public debate.
I know, right? And here's a question for everyone listening. How does this kind of back and forth between famous people and these big influential figures, how does it shape what we think? How does it affect the way we form our opinions about these companies and these issues? Like, it's not just about entertainment anymore. It's about power and perception and the way information gets filtered and debated in this crazy media landscape we live in.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And you know what? I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today.
We have. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
See you then.